What's going on, everyone? It's Jeranism, back with another video for you today. I want to discuss one of the hardest pills for people to swallow, but just do me a favor. I've asked this before, but I can't overstate its importance. It's actually kind of a two-part favor. First, don't trust me. You need to look into all this yourself, and while you do that, part two is to make sure that there is actual proof or evidence of something before you just believe it. I'm telling you, because a bunch of men say so does not equal truth. It means a bunch of men say so. If you take the time and actually research and check your ego at the door, you're going to come to the same conclusion we all have. For example, you will not find proof of the moon landings. Well, because there is no truth in it. Think for a second. NASA fanboys wet their pants over Elon Musk sending a rocket 50 miles high and then that same rocket landing, with no people inside. Yet these same fanboys will tell you, as if there is not a question to be asked and it is provable fact, that 50 years ago, 3 men got into a Saturn V rocket, which is almost double the size of the Falcon 9, shot into Earth orbit, did some trickery, some spins, then left orbit to the moon. They then go into lunar orbit, go around the moon a few times, then 2 of these heroes get into the lunar lander, go on down, then they got out on the lunar surface, stuck a flag in the ground, called the president, Buzz took a piss, then they got back in. It launched back to a rendezvous with the former mate, the Apollo craft, and then it all came back to Earth, went into orbit, and then landed in the sea with all 3 men inside, who just traveled 500,000 miles to the so-called rock in the sky. But Elon Musk is such a visionary. Oh, he's so smart, a trendsetter. Long story short, do not let people just tell you that they know the truth without any need to verify or prove it. People are liars and deceptive because we let them. You need to force NASA to prove their bullshit. No more free passes. The problem, of course, is that they won't prove it. They can't prove it. Let me explain this world of ours, because a lot of people just don't get it. The powers that be give us a choice, and that choice is to accept and believe their version of reality or to live in doubt. And while their stories may seem crazy to many of us, they give others feelings of security and purpose. Their stories are the new gospel of the new religion of statism or of scientism, basically the religion of normality. And you cannot be normal unless you believe in their gospel. And you can't just stop believing in the gospel of normality, or else you'll have to find answers to all the questions that they have already answered for us. This gospel was designed with this exact intent. What even they don't know or understand, they tell you exactly what many want to hear. They pretend as if they know. Look at shooting stars, for example. We've all seen them. They look identical to the stars in the sky, but they're flying across it. Yet we're told they're completely different. The stars in the sky are suns trillions of miles away, and the little thing flying through the sky that looks exactly like it happens to be a meteor mere hundreds of miles away. Now, you can go ask your friends about it, but they'll just laugh at you. You can tell your parents, but they might have you locked up because you're insane. You don't believe the things that the indoctrinated masses do. You aren't normal. You're crazy. You're dumb. You're out of your mind. They'll say things like, the U.S. government can't hide a blowjob, and you think that they can hide the faking of the moon landings? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying they have hid the impossibility of space travel, the shape of the planet you live on, about pretty much everything you've ever read in science, and the age of the Earth. On top of that, pretty much your entire idea of history. So, all that being said, don't lose your mind, but satellites in space don't exist.
Oh!
Orbits don't exist.
Oh!
It's all pretend.
Oh!
Arthur C. Clarke wrote about satellites, and then before you know it, they went from science fiction to science fact. Of course, Arthur C. Clarke was a high Freemason. No surprise there. Now, I did not say that little lights can't go across the sky. They exist. I said orbiting metal expensive satellites don't exist. It's a scam on you and on me. A scam that makes them money, makes them seem overcapable, as if launching these expensive works of technological genius is easy. A single launch of a satellite can cost $500 million. To build a satellite that can just track and monitor hurricanes, $290 million, and that's without the actual launch. Add $100 million or more if you want a satellite that comes with a missile warning device. Now come on, let's just think. Let's use our heads. How could they be so expensive? It's a scam. Take a look at this house. This house is in Nebraska. It is $900,000. Do you really think a satellite that is falling around the planet should cost as many as 500 of these houses? It is a sad, sad lie. So you pay $100 a month for your DirecTV. Go ahead and try and prove satellites exist. You won't, and you can't. So your choices are either A, trust men, because no one would ever deceive you, or B, trust your eyes and common sense. I choose to trust myself until I'm proven wrong. Not by some high school kid who says, of course satellites are real, man, you're a moron. But by actual evidence. Now, here's what they want you to believe, and even go as far as to call it fact. They say that there's around 1,100 satellites currently in operation in orbit around the Earth, and 2,600 that are still orbiting that no longer work. And they just stay in their perfect orbit, even though they should be sucked down into the Earth, and the ones that do start to fall, well, they move the others so that they can make room for the one that's falling. It is, of course, comical. To those who have succumbed to the new world of indoctrination, it is reality. This is not for them. It's to those who still have minds and brains, because all it really takes is some thought to realize the lies. First of all, is anything free? Think of the things out there in the materialistic world. What's free? Not a lot. It's actually pretty rare that you would get something for free. But think now of that satellite dish on your roof. Did you get that for free? When you ended your service, did they come and take it, or did they just leave it there? No one wants possession of that thing, because if it ever is exposed, DirecTV will say, no, we provided you service, you got channels, you got TV. It's not our dish. They don't want anything to do with it. So I was reading about a few different internet companies as far as satellite phones and satellite internet. This one's talking about Wild Blue. It says Wild Blue has been operational since 1995 when it was founded in Colorado. And Wild Blue Internet service became operational in the middle of 2005, a year after it was granted access to the Anik F2 telecom satellite of Telesat Canada. It was also in 2005 when the first Wild Blue subscriber began using its satellite system. Wild Blue deployed a total of 5 gateways across the continental U.S. and Canada to manage their subscribers' satellite access. Each gateway is made up of internet, microwave, and broadband equipment for routing traffic from the subscriber's computer to access the internet. And people will swear this is satellite internet. Sure it is. Now, I'm going to do a little bit more reading, and this all comes from globalcomssatphone.com. You'd think that satellite phones would make sense and would be easy to use, but let's read a couple of their terms and conditions. First one talking about data transmission use and dropped calls, and due to the technical nature of data setups and the inherent sophistication of data transmission through a variety of operating systems, Globalcom makes no representation as to the success of data calls through our system, along with the potential incorrect use. The Iridium system is a low Earth orbiting satellite constellation, has inherent flaws and anomalies that can create dropped calls of either voice or data nature. Globalcom can provide data setup technical support beyond the normal provided setup instructions at an additional charge. Now let's read about their limitation of liability, in case you find out that satellites don't exist. Among other things, it says the satellite services provided by the provider may be temporarily interrupted, delayed, or otherwise limited, and is not available everywhere in the world. Imagine that. Globalcom shall have no liability or credit due for interrupted service unless caused by our gross negligence. They shall not be liable for acts or omissions or from other carriers, equipment failures or modifications, acts of God, strikes, government actions, or causes beyond their reasonable control. Globalcom makes no warranties with respect to the service of any kind whatsoever, expressed or implied, except as specifically provided in this agreement. So then I was thinking, at least they get great internet service, right? So I looked that up, and it says, will I have access to the internet? Yes, of course you'll have access to the internet. And it says, what is the rate of the data speed? Very slow, 2500 baud, slower than dial-up. Go satellite phones. This is where I think every one of these guys needs to go. All these liars and scammers. You'll see here in the Dish Network agreement that you are required to return all such leased equipment in good operating condition. within 30 days of disconnection of your service. You are not required, however, to return the dish antenna, which shall become your property upon complete service cancellation. I wonder why they don't want their satellite dish back. Now let's read about the Communications Satellite Act of 1962. It was a very controversial act and was left very open-ended. The act was signed August 31st, 1962 by Kennedy. Let's read what the disagreement with the passing of the act was. Democratic Senator Russell B. Long of Louisiana said of the act, "When this bill first started out, I thought it was as crooked as a dog's hind leg. I am now convinced that would be a compliment. This bill is as crooked as a barrel of snakes." The American Telephone and Telegraph Company argued that using space for communications was just a modern representation of the submarine communications cables currently in use. AT&T proposed joint ownership of all the communication satellites with control based on the system facilities. Now, basically what this is saying is all these groups got together and said, let's all cheat people. Let's all screw people. You don't just get to screw them. We're all going to screw them. When we talk about the compromise that was taken in order for the legislation to pass, we see that the United States government, including the President, NASA, and the FCC, were all to maintain certain duties to monitor the communication satellites. The President was to observe every aspect of the development and operation of the satellite systems. He is also responsible for providing arrangements with foreign participation. NASA was designated as a technical advisor for the FCC and the Communications Corporation to the extent that would aid the nation. NASA was to receive reimbursement for the services it rendered. Yeah, let's give NASA more money. A little lower, we see comments on the act after passing. This is very important. The year after the act passed, President Lyndon B. Johnson reported to Congress that the act is progressing well in light of the complexities of the problem. Yet at this point, little had actually been accomplished. There had been no communication satellites launched, and only some research had been conducted to provide a path for moving forward. Guys noticing anything yet? So, as sad as this may seem, and it seems honestly very sad, and as unbelievable as it may sound, all of space is looking like a giant hoax. It's just the way it appears.